Live now? Hello, sound check. I can see the dials working, so I have to assume that I'm broadcasting already. Let me verify. Okay. All right. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to this. Okay, this is not our usual class. I mean, usually we will be talking about it's the Open of London. What can we do? What can we trade? But this is a special one. This is a different class. Our topic is how, or rather, how do you create a trading robot? That could be a C-bot, or that could be a C-bot, or that could be an EA, or that could be a Pine script. But essentially, I wanted this to be a video, a course, a session about how can you program something that's trading related without really having much of a background in programming. I mean, I have to admit, I'm not a computer engineer. I'm not an IT guy. I like coding because it was a hobby for me back when I was in high school, and that's like, I don't know, that was like 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago. So, but it's a hobby. And when I started experimenting with generative AI, I found that, okay, this is something that could really help someone to code. So this session is all about how do we code, and we will be coding for MetaTrader 5. Now, I actually haven't coded, hard-coded, hand-coded in MetaTrader 5 before. I used to code in MetaTrader 4. If you guys know about my EA that's in the marketplace, Big Ben Trading, that was done in Meta 4. But like I said, I don't have any experience in coding in MetaTrader 5. So this will be a bit of an experiment for me as well. Although, to be honest, I did do some testing earlier. Now, we said in the title that we were going to use ChatGPT. In fact, there are 3 good choices for that's open to the public, for coding. You could use ChatGPT, you could use DeepSeek, and you could use Grok. From several attempts to test the generative AIs, we found that perhaps the better tool would be to use your to use Grok. It's more accurate. There is less error once you start compiling your EA or your indicator or your CBOT. But of course, as we said, for tonight, we will be doing this using Grok, and we will be using the MetaTrader 5 platform. Okay, so guys, for those of you who totally have no experience in coding but are really into trading, I would suggest that you experiment using Grok. Now, without further ado, I guess we should get started. Now, let me familiarize you with the environment that we use for making EAs or indicators in MetaTrader 5. Basically, you need your IDE, your language editor. Now, guys, if you want to make an EA, so you open your IDE, the language editor. Then if you want to do an EA, you just go to File, click on New. And I would suggest that because we are going to use an AI for this, I would suggest that you use Expert Advisor instead of expert advisor generate. I would suggest that you use a template so that you can skip to a lot of things. Now let's just call our EA for tonight. Let's just call it first test. The first test. Okay. So let's just call it first test. And we go next. And we go next again. And that creates for you basically a template for when you would like to code an EA. Now, if you notice that your template has some 3 functions there on init, which means that when you activate an EA, when you place it in your chart in MetaTrader, all the commands that you put in on init, basically that means on initialization, everything that is here, all the commands that you write would be included there. Now on dinit means that basically these are functions, these are steps that the EA takes whenever you remove the EA from a chart. And then in onTick, this is where most of the action happens. So basically the way an EA works is that when it's activated, when it's in a chart and it's activated and the price has changed, okay, say if there's a new change and if there's a new quote in the prices, then whatever is here in onTick will be activated, will be used by, or rather will be implemented by the EA. Now folks, you do not necessarily have to know these things because the AI will be responsible for placing the commands that you need at the right function, whether it should be an initialization or it should be during the initialization when you remove the EA, or whether it should be in the monitoring phase or when the EA is keeping an eye on the market. Okay, I'm just trying to give you some basic rundown on how an EA would process the instructions that you give it. Now, AI is such a huge word these days. You always hear about people talking AI this, AI that. I would like to caution people that AI is not perfect. AI does not necessarily know what to, okay, AI cannot give you or will only give you something depending on your instructions to it. Okay, it's not intelligent, it's not a human person, although ChatGPT says that its AI is now PhD level. It's still not conscious. So it functions fast, it can code fast. I mean, something that would have taken me weeks, an AI, or with the assistance of an AI, I could probably do in a day. Something that I could probably do in a day with an AI, we should be able to do in an hour. So that's what we'll be doing for the next hour. All right. Now, anyone who has used generative AI, like especially your language AIs, like ChatGPT, would know that it's all about the prompting. So let's try to point out how should we come up, or how should we compose our AI, or rather our EA. So guys, when you're doing an EA, it's all about the details that you give it. And the details that you give it mean that you can't just tell an AI, make me an EA that will make me money. You have to have some idea on what strategy, what techniques will be able to generate you money. You have to have some notion of what your EA should be doing. All right. All right. So let's begin. Now, we'd like to do something simple, and one of that something simple that I have in mind is this. It's pretty common for many traders to put something like an MACD in their chart, and then they would also put something like your stochastic. Okay, why do this? Because the reasoning for many traders is that they want to take a trade in the direction of the stochastic. So the idea behind this method is, or behind this technique for traders, is that, okay, my MACD tells me that what the trend is. Okay, sorry, let me change the color for that. So the idea is that MACD, let me change the color. Okay, the idea is that MACD tells you the direction of the market, and your stochastic, if it generates a signal in the direction of the MACD, should give you a nice entry, such as this one here. This is a hourly chart for GBP. All right, so very simple rule, and we want MACD, or rather we want an EA that would trade this. Now, let me get back to our guide on how are we going, or how are we supposed to make an EA. So one of the most important thing when you ask the AI to make you an EA is that you define properly what you want the EA to do. So let me start by telling the AI what I want to do. So let's start our prompting by giving it some basic instructions, and maybe, okay, let me just find a nice place for the mic and then my keyboard. All right, so let me just tell the AI, okay, can you help me make an EA? You have to specify to the AI what platform you're going to use and what language it's supposed to use. So let me say, can you help me make an EA for MetaTrader using MQL5? MQL5 is the language that we use in coding in MetaTrader 5. So first instruction would be identify the language, the platform that you will be using your EA in. Otherwise, you could be, the AI could be coding something and it would be using Pine script, or it could be using C, and that's not the code that you need for your trading platform. So can you help me make an EA for MetaTrader using MT5? Now, I normally would want to tell the AI in the beginning what are the parameters that I expect it to use, what kind of inputs, what kind of user variables, or what kind of variables do I want the user of the EA to have control over. So these are what we call normally an input parameter. Now, in trading, normally your input parameter is, say, what would be a nice input parameter? We can say that your input parameter would be your lot size. Okay, so let's just add more instructions. Please give me control over the following, or give the user control over the following input parameters. Now folks, it's not necessary for you to actually say these in complete sentences, but I find that it's easier to do it this way. So please give the user control over the following input parameters. Lot size. What else? Let's say that we just want a specific amount as far as target profit and stop loss is concerned. So let me see, let me input there, take profit in points. Now, to make it easier for the AI and for users, let's just put a default value here. Now we are saying take profit in points because I want the user to be able to adjust, and I want to avoid instances where the AI or the user will have some confusion over what is a pip and what is a point. So let me just say, let me just define my take profit as 40 pips or 0.40 points. If you're talking about currencies like your euro, your GBP, your Aussie. Okay, nothing, non-yen, non-Japanese yen currencies. Now for lot size, let me just put in a default value of 1.0. So please give me user control over the following input parameter with default values. What else? We'd like to define stop loss. So stop loss in points. Okay, I don't want to do a 1:1 ratio, so let me use a 30 pip stop loss, 40 pip price profit target. And now let's go to the meat of things. Let's go to the trading rules. So what did we say earlier? We said that we just want our EA to buy if MACD is going up, and then you have a bullish crossover in your stochastic, and sell if the, okay, there's a bearish MACD here, sell if MACD is going down, and you have a sell signal. Okay, so very simple rules. All right, so basically we're using the MACD to identify the direction of the market, and then the stochastic as our, to tell us that it's time to take action already. So let me just input that as our instructions. Now let's just say please follow these trading rules. Buy if MACD is going up and the stochastic has a new bullish crossover. It is always best to specify it some more. Okay, how do we specify it? By saying that is, i.e., when the stochastic, when the main line crosses the signal line from below. So the more details that you put in your prompt, the better, the more accurate your initial result would be. So when the main line crosses the signal line, and then we tell the EA to sell if MACD. In fact, let me specify it. Buy if MACD main line is above the signal line. You don't really necessarily have to do it this way. I mean specify, but it is better for you to specify your instructions, to go into the details. So buy if the MACD signal line, main line is above the signal line, and the stochastic line has a new bullish crossover. Sell if MACD main line is below the signal and the stochastic has a new bearish crossover. Now let's define again what is a crossover. When stochastic mainline crosses the signal line from above. Let me specify which indicator it should be monitoring. So we now have instructions for the EA to place a buy, to place a sell. Let's just tell it where to put the take profit and the stop loss. So let's say if buying, put a take profit above the entry level using take profit in points. Remember, our target is take profit in points, so we use that variable. So using take profit in points, if selling, put a take profit below the entry level using take profit in points. Let me just make sure that we are using the exact variables. So your input variables, take profit. Now, to control the losses for our risk management, put a stop loss for open buys. Using your stop loss in points. Then for selling, let's say put a stop loss for open sells using, again, stop loss in points. Now, again, so that we avoid errors, let's just specify, put your stop loss for open buys using stop loss in points. Let's just say above the entry, or rather below the entry. So put a stop loss for open buys below the entry using stop loss in points, and then stop loss in the stop loss for your open sells. Let's just say put a stop loss for open sells above the entry using stop loss in points. Now, there's a line here that I should add, but I will omit for now. I just want to show you how do you deal with errors. All right, so let's go ask our AI to generate this EA for us. So let's open. Okay, I'm already in Grok. Let me just request for that. Give it some time to think. And this is what I was saying. What could have normally taken me an afternoon or maybe a day to code, the AI can just do it in a flash. But guys, these generative AIs, they don't really, shall we say, they're not perfect. You have to have good instructions in order to get good results. So let's just copy this, and then let's go to our editor, and let's delete all of that template. Let's copy paste and compile. All right, so we generated an error. It says IMACD wrong parameters count. Now here's how you fix things in here's how you fix things. You basically just want to identify where that error is. All right, so it's line 28. So like I said, I don't know the syntax that's needed for MQL5. So I'll just say, okay, copy that. And then I'll go back to our, Grok, and then tell him I generated an error in line. I generated this error. Now let me rephrase that. Let's just say an error was, this error was generated during compilation at line, what was that again? At line 28. Line 28. And then let's put the error there. Let's just copy paste. So once I added that information to Grok, it will basically update the code that it made, make the corrections necessary. So what I'm trying to point out with this is that it's not perfect, but it's not difficult to correct or to find the errors and have it corrected. So now we can copy contents and we can go to our editor, paste that new selection over and compile. All right, so first test, no errors detected. Let's see if this thing is working. I think there's still an error there, but let's see if this gets implemented. So back to your platform, you go to File. Oh, yeah, sorry, you go to View, you open Strategy Tester, or you can do Control R. And then once the interface for the Strategy Tester pops out, just go to Settings. Let's call our EA First Tester. And then let's have it run. Okay, let's see if this thing works. So I'm using custom period from last year, January last year up to now. Inputs, okay. We said in our, when we were coding, when we were giving instructions, we said that inputs would be, lot size would be 1, take profit would be 40 pips, which is 0.4 points, and then stop loss will be 0.03 or 30 pips. Now, what else? Okay, deposit size is there, 1,000. So let's run it. Let's see if this thing works. All right, guys, it's been run and I don't think that it's taking trades. Why is that? Because the okay, I intentionally omitted the line that we should have told the AI to put. Okay, sometimes you have to remind the AI to also load what's normally called include files. When you're doing some programs, um, in order to save memory from before, in order to save system resources, what we do is that instead of of a person coding everything, we have what we call include files. So let me just tell the AI to include that as well, that command line. So you forgot to include the include files for trading. Please account for this. Or rather, let me tell this, the AI did it. Now, let me tell it this way. No trades were opened. Why do you think? That is when I can confirm visually that signals were generated. So basically, I'm asking it to tell me why is it that even though the code was properly written, it was still unable to, the AI failed to open trades properly. So now it's updating. And let's see if the update is working or not. Let's just wait for it to compile. So I basically told it to account for the include files already, so that it doesn't really take that long for it to fix itself or to fix the EA code. One thing that I've noticed with Grok is that it often forgets to call these external functions that are stored in external files. Alrighty, so let's check this out now. Let me go to the IDE, copy, paste, and compile. All right, if you see during compilation that it's accounted for multiple libraries already, these libraries are basically sets of functions that you don't have to hard code again. Basically, you just call them. If you put them as an include file, okay, if you include these files, these libraries, automatically whatever functions that are in these files can be implemented already by your EA. So just look at it this way. Always tell your AI to account for include files when it's doing the code, because the AI is thinking, this is the logic that I should be following. These are the commands that I should be putting in the program. But sometimes it forgets that some of these commands are not inherent to uh, the main program. Okay, and now let's see if this is working. So we've compiled it. Let's go back to the platform and let me run this. Taking some time. Okay, let me just check this out, guys. It's in euro. All right, it's still not running. Let me check the code. Let me just check the code that it generated, folks. All right, so what are we, or what is this program telling it? When we initialize, it loads MACD, stochastics. Okay, on tick. So it checks if there are no open positions. I'm pretty sure that that's perfect already. Let me just find where our failure point is. Let's take a look at the journal, see what it's doing. Hints are fine. We are trading euros, so yeah, we're trading euros. 0.4 should be fine for a take profit. Stop loss 0.03, that should be fine. Lot size is okay. Deposit values 10,000. All right, let me ask Grok to recheck this. We are still not generating trades. Could you make sure? Could you recheck the code? So it is possible that the error is in the logic, the way it coded the logic. Sometimes we get this. Okay, now it's generating more errors. Okay, let me restart this, folks. Let me just improve our prompting. So please follow the following training rules. If MACD line is above the signal line and the stochastic has a new bullish crossover, when the stochastic main line crosses the signal line from below. So yeah, that's, let me see if it's translated correctly. So here is how it checks by signal. It makes sure that the MACD main line is above the signal line and stochastic main line all right. Let me check the prompting here. So let me specify that it's going to use MetaTrader 5. This is correct. I think the problem is in how it's generating the commands. If trade, okay. Let me just have it verify things. Can you verify that buys are generated when MACD is heading up and there's a new bullish crossover in stochastic? So when you're trying to debug your logic, because at this point we're debugging the logic already. So that's really the issue with the prompting. You sometimes have to reprompt everything. And I'll also instruct it to account for that with sell positions. And you also verify that a sell position is generated, is made when the MACD is heading down and a new bearish crossover is generated by stochastic. So now what it's doing is it's fixing the initial logic that it came up with. So let's just wait for the EA to fix the logic that it used. So when you're coding using an AI and you compiled it correctly and there was no error generated, but it's not doing anything, um, it probably means that the error is in how the logic was coded. So you just have to ask the AI to recheck the logic that it used. And now let me select all, let's paste, compile. Okay, it's generating errors, declaration of digits hides variable. Let me copy this, and again, part of debugging a program is that you can just go and cite that. I am generating this error. Sorry. Let's copy that in line 450. In fact, since it's generating the same errors, let's just identify all the lines where this error is popping up. 450, 473, 422, so that it knows where to check and where to fix. In lines 450, where else? 450, 473, 422, 473, 422. Of course, you have to be very accurate about where these lines are so that it knows it's checking the right part of the code. 455. Rather, 445, 264. 445, 264. 376 and a lot more. Let me just try what it would say if I say elsewhere and elsewhere. So hopefully when we say that, it will find the other lines where this error is occurring and it will just adjust again. When I initially tested this, it was a lot easier, but I deleted the prompt that I made earlier, and this is what we were getting. Less detailed prompting means that we have more errors to fix. Alrighty. Let's compile again. All right, no errors this time. Let's go to the platform. See if this trades now. We want to visualize the trading. That's the EA that we want to test. We tested for $10,000. We are using input parameters, one lot, 0.4 for profit target, 0.3 for stop loss, and let me run it. All right. Still no trades generated. And we don't have time to reprompt this. Let's go to our original prompt then. And let's remove the errors with the prompt. So buy if MACD is rising. So sometimes you really just have to go back to your prompt until you come up with something that works. So buy if MACD, open a buy if MACD is going up. In fact, let me fix our prompting, folks. All right, so we are telling it these are our input parameters. These are our trade entry conditions. Buy if rather let's just put the conditions first. If MACD is rising and there is a new bullish crossover in stochastic, open a buy. If MACD is falling and there is a new bearish crossover in stochastic, open a sell. So again, basic conditions. And then let's just say, do not forget to include files. Do not forget to include files. So we've reprompted it. Let's see if this prompting works. It's actually a lot shorter than the original. Sometimes you have to just open a new chat so that it forgets your previous conversation. And let's run this. Again, that error for 34 at the line 34 is occurring. So please fix in line 34. Okay, let me go do this. Let's compile. Nothing wrong from the compilation. Let's apply it. Let me just make sure that it's loading the right files. Let's visualize this thing. And let's start. All right, looks like it's taking trades, but it's not exactly profitable trades, unfortunately. But let's see. So the whole process really is iterative. If you've come up with your logic, but it seems that it's not working, you can always go back to, okay, so here's the result of its trading. It's actually losing money. So how do you fix this? Well, one way would be to figure out which instrument will your EA be more effective. You can always use the market scanner feature of the trading platform. So with market scanner, essentially it will test the EA against multiple instruments that you have loaded in your market watch, and well, it tries to figure out with which instrument is your EA going to be profitable with. So let's run that. All right, I guess I'm having some connection functions problems here, folks, because I'm not able to generate multiple runs in a single go. So we can just, if that happens to you, then you can just go use your, try your EA with other instruments. Well, guys, I guess we'll have to do something like this again uh, when we're more, when we're in a better position, or when we have I don't know really what's wrong with the platform right now, but we've seen how this process is. It's an iterative process. You prompt your instructions, you put as much detail as you can, have your AI generate the code that you need. And if during compilation, when you compile the AI and it works, okay, let's just try this one. Let's try this test. When you compile and there's no error, that means that the syntax, the way the words, the commands, the variables, the way they've been put together is correct. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's been coded properly. It doesn't necessarily mean that the logic that was used is correct. And if the logic that was used is not correct, then once you start running the AI, or rather the EA, Okay, I seem to have run out of memory, folks. So once you, rather, I'm lost. So once you run things and it doesn't open new trades, then essentially what's happening there is that you have some errors in your logic, in the way the logic was implemented. So at that point, you focus on drilling down. If you totally have no experience in coding, then you can always tell the AI to recheck the logic. You can try to compare the logic that was used by one AI to another. But if you do have experience, then you can always take a quick look, see if the sequence of checks, the order, the precedence of uh, triggers for a buy position to be opened or for a sell position to be opened are properly coded. All right, folks, I guess we'll do another one of these uh, perhaps next Wednesday. Thanks for joining.